Hey, it's Michael. Welcome to Waltrip Unfiltered. Daniel Hemric is going to stop by our Fox studios today to talk about his career getting to the Cup Series and the unfortunate news he had this past week, losing his ride at Richard Childress Racing. Where will he wind up? And will he have the passion, the desire, the determination to get to that next step? Well, I'm going to tell you the answer to that is yes. You wouldn't believe everything that Daniel's been through to get where he's at. He's not going to give up now. He's a great interview, and I love the fact that I get to sit down and talk to him today. We appreciate all the questions you submitted using the Ask Mikey hashtag, and we will ask Daniel those questions. Be sure to tell your friends via Twitter, via Reddit, or go to the Fox Sports YouTube page and watch our videos. Tell everybody about Waltrip Unfiltered. This has been a lot of fun for me, getting to visit with guys like Daniel Hemric, hear their stories, and then getting you involved, the fans, so that you can ask those questions as well. So sit back, enjoy the ride. I know you're going to love Daniel Hemric's story.
Be ready. Green flag, green flag.
Well, Daniel, I really appreciate you coming by our studios. How's it going?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Good. I like coming and doing my podcast. Me and you golf together a lot, but
Yes, we do.
it's fun to be able to sit down and just have a little bit of time to chat, catch up.
That's right. Anytime you get a chance to be in MDO's presence, you got to take advantage of it.
Well,
It's
that's
good to see
awesome. I love sharing playing the golf game with you. We both are about the same. The only thing that I will say about that is you probably gained, 20 rounds this year?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Did you play 20 today? 20 rounds today?
I played 130 some, and I just don't seem to get any better. I don't get it.
It's a very fickle game, isn't it?
It is.
I took it up about 2 or 3 years ago, and never thought I'd be so frustrated trying to hit this little ball around. But it's also you got to keep coming back and playing because it's so challenging. So that's really what kind of got me into it and playing. So now that I'm on the GGT deal with you guys and Denny and everybody, it's push the golf intensity to a different level, but yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, all of a sudden a 12-footer for bogey looks a lot different than it ever has, doesn't it?
I mean, you think the whole small normal golf, it narrows up pretty quick.
We played yesterday with Brett Moffitt, and that's the dangest thing. I mean, he can hit a ball so far. Unbelievable. Like
it don't even sound like mine. I've never had a golf strike sound like that, and it's one after another. Now you may not know where it's going to go at times.
That's for sure. I told someone the other day Moffitt's country strong.
That's exactly right.
I guess that's how you got to be to hit one like that.
That's what I hear, and I'll tell you, man, it's unbelievable to watch. I've never had one do that, but hey, that's why I keep going back, try to get to where I can do that.
Well, you hit some good shots yesterday.
I felt good about it. I've gained a little yardage off the tee, which helped me, especially if you can get one turned over. But I don't know, my 3-wood shots are hit or miss. I can hit one good one, think I got it figured out, step over to the next one, no good. So keep working on it.
We were talking earlier with a buddy, and how when we go golf, whether it's with me and you or Denny or Larson or whomever, we still are racing guys.
Without a doubt, it shows.
You can't help it.
You cannot help it.
You want to know what the other guy's thinking, and I'd like to think that I know it's been a rough week for you. I'd like to think you can go to the golf course and get away from it all, but you really can't. I mean, if you're going to be a racer, it's all consuming. You're in every minute.
That's exactly right. It may have suffered a little bit on the golf course because of that yesterday, but no, I mean at the end of the day, that's my livelihood, right? I mean, I think having a little bit of an outlet to go play some golf with some buddies is a little disconnect, but if you ever fully disconnect, you probably don't have a lot of business being involved in it. And just try to still get as much work done as I could yesterday while we were playing. And I don't know, it's just one of those things where, your mind's all over the place, but that's kind of why, to me, it applies to racing because, right, you're in a race car, you're grinding it out week after week, trying to keep your head in the game, and no different than the golf game. So it's probably a good challenge for me to have all the business stuff going on yesterday as well as swinging the clubs and just try to keep my head in the game because I got a lot of work to be done here the next couple of weeks to try to put a deal together. But I think I told you yesterday, I kind of don't mind being that guy that's got to overcome it or figure it out. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, you're trained that way, right? I mean, the story of Daniel Hemric making it to the Monster Energy Cup Series was a long shot in the first place, to say the least, right?
That's a good way to put it. Long shot, to say the least. I would have never thought I'd ended up in the situation I am. And heck, I was talking to some folks. I'm actually going to have dinner with them here in a little while. And folks I used to drive for back in 2012, super late model racing, and I'd pretty much committed.
What was that? What was his name?
So that was Jake Carswell.
Yes.
Yeah, so they had they bought all their late model stuff actually off of Jody Ridley back 10 years before I met
Number
him.
98, right?
98, yeah, blue car, white stripes. And, I'd pretty much 2012 had committed to be a super late model racer full time, and that's what I was going to do. That's what was paying my bills. That's where I spent all my time was building those cars and working on those cars and racing all over the place wherever they had a big show at that weekend. And, 2012 wasn't that long ago, so to have all these things fall into place and just work out the way they have to get to this point, it's pretty surreal when you think about it. And I guess that's probably why I'm not too defeated at this moment, right?
Right.
I've been down and out and kind of pulled myself back up and done it again, so that's what I look forward to doing here in the weeks ahead.
And I'm sure it's been very rewarding to get. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of opportunities, calls,
Yep.
Inquiries about what you might be doing in 2020, and knowing that people care, and not only maybe it isn't just. Maybe it isn't a car owner, maybe it's a sponsor or just your friends like us that have said, you're gonna come out on top in this deal.
Yeah, I think so. I think having that support group around you, right? That's what kind of really gives you, in those down moments, it really gives you those motivations to get back up. And, I never would have thought that when the news came out and all this stuff, it can be pretty, gloom and whatnot. But I thought from past champions of our sport, Hall of Famers, people that went out of their way to reach out and to kind of give you that, hey, you're going to be just fine. And that's what I tried to make clear. We had a press conference a couple of days ago about the whole situation at the racetrack. And, I just told them, like, the people that are in the know, right, they see what you're doing. They see how you go about your business week in and week out. Those are the ones that ultimately you want respect from, right? You want to have the respect of your peers that you're around every week. So to have all those folks reach out, it's like, okay, I know I'm doing something right. And to see them kind of have your back through those moments, that's a tough-knit or tight-knit group, so to say, and makes you feel good about what's coming. And
you talk about being tough and understanding that things are going to happen and overcoming adversity. That's that documentary that I just did,
which was unbelievable, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I loved it.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was about that.
Exactly.
It's the same for me.
Yep.
Like, it was about not listening to other people tell me I wasn't good enough. Just saying, yes, I am. I know I am.
Absolutely.
And starting that engine and thinking this is going to be my day. And that has to be that's burning inside of you right now as you finish the 2019 season, let alone what's going forward.
Without a doubt. I think that's what people say, are you losing sleep over worrying about what's next? Like, no, I'm losing sleep about what I can do now. What do I got to do right now? If I do what I'm supposed to do right now, all the other stuff will take care of itself. And I've always lived by the fact that, having faith that things will work out the way they're supposed to. And I know I'm just kind of a part of a bigger plan, that something down the road is going to be better, and it's all happening for a reason. So, yeah, it's just, if we talked about that fire, if that fire burns out, then you shouldn't be doing it. But we got a lot of fire left. I'm ready to rock.
Yeah, and Daniel Hemric grew up in Kannapolis, North Carolina. Tell me about your first memory of interest in racing something.
I remember, so my dad actually was wide open all the time. He never raced, but he was on dirt bikes and go-karts, just doing anything that was on the edge. And my stepfather raced late models actually up in the Massachusetts area, moved south and raced in what was the old Big Ten series at Concord Motorsports Park, the half mile there, and was chasing a dream and fell short. So, my family, my mother and my father separated pretty early in my life. So I was around my stepfather, who had just fell short of this dream, my dad, who was always out of control and everything he got on, and there was a little go-kart track, 10 minutes, 15 minutes from my house in Concord, and we went over there and gave it a shot. But I remember the first interest I took in racing. I was sitting there on the foot of my father's bed. I believe it was in '95, watching the Bristol night race. The first time Terry Labonte and Earnhardt had to run in together. And I remember that like it was yesterday. Like, that was my first time. Like, hey, this is awesome. So fast forward about a year later is when I got in that go-kart for the first time, and been wide open ever since. 23 years, Mikey.
I know.
I'm 28 years old. So. 23 years. Crazy to think about.
That is wild to think about, and the looking through your stats, obviously the wins, the 2013 championship.
Yep.
There's a lot of Bubba Pollard energy in the world right now.
I love Bubba.
Yeah, everybody loves Bubba.
Yep.
And I've never met him, and I look forward to the opportunity to do so. And he just was announced by Junior Motorsports that he's going to race a late model for them.
No, I gave him a big thumbs up on that too. Yeah, I was pumped. Obviously, Josh Berry does incredible things in the JRM late model and has been doing it for years. So, you talk about Bubba Pollard. I grew up. Back in those 2010, 11, 12, 13 range. He was the guy I was head-to-head with week in and week out between him and Chase Elliott. And still a lot of those local short track guys, Augie Grill, Mike Garvey, people that, the average NASCAR fan now may not ever talk about, but those are hard-nosed racers. Augie Grill, those are people I was having to kind of learn and race with week in and week out. So Bubba Pollard always talks about he feels like his time's past him and he won't have his shot, but he's doing incredible things without a doubt. He's the greatest short track racer of all time, and I feel privileged to have raced with a guy like that. And now he's going to do a little late model stock racing with JRM, so that's pretty cool. And
so was he established in 2013 when you showed up?
Oh yeah,
he was the man, right? And you took him down.
We took him down a couple times. Yeah, it's him and I actually battled it out for a championship. We actually ended up at Nashville Fairgrounds to settle the first. I guess it was the Southern Super Series, the first year of their inaugural
2013?
Season. Yep, 2013. And we went there and had a really good car, and it's a long-distance race, right? Everybody's pitting, you're off sequence, you got tires, you don't have tires, and Bubba got caught up in a wreck trying to come back through the field. I came and got my last set of tires, and I think I had to get the second from like 18th or 19th with like 5 or 6 laps to go. And Chase Elliott won the race. It was All-American 400, and I ran second, and just enough to edge Bubba by 1 point.
1 point.
Yeah, so when we battled, man, those guys taught me a lot about what I'm doing right now. So it's cool to see him getting some notoriety, and he has been kicking everybody's tail all year, so that's pretty special.
Yeah, and I love the fact that we're talking about him too,
yeah,
because
that's what it's all about.
When we're golfing or something, we'll talk about who's badass Bubba Pollard
That's
is.
right.
And now
he is.
Everybody's talking about him.
Guaranteed. And that's what's cool to see is you see a guy put the work in, put the time in, comes from a great family, and all they do is race. I remember back in those days, that 98 car, it was myself, my wife, the folks who owned the car, and maybe one other person. I brought my spotter with me, and he helped me on the car. And there was times where Sonny Pollard, which is Bubba Pollard's dad, and Bubba's mother would come up and like, boy, we haven't seen you eat anything all week since you've been down here. They'd make me a sandwich. They were the family that would always try to kind of look out for me. They saw how I was trying to do it, and they just kind of played the parenting role at times. So I appreciated that. So it's cool to see everybody giving him the kind of notoriety that I feel like he deserves.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. And that reminds me, we have some great questions from not only Twitter, but from Reddit as well. People that wanted to know what's going on in Daniel's world and how things are developing. What do you got to kick it off here, CJ? That's our social media guru, CJ, here at Fox Sports, alongside Ford in the very stylish headset.
Ford's always got style, don't he?
Man, I gotta look good for you, Michael.
There you go. I like your shoes too. You're tight.
Right, so to everybody that submitted questions, thank you so much for doing that. Just continue to tweet #AskMikey to be a part of the show, and we post a thread on Reddit every week for our new guests. And Daniel, thanks for being here, buddy.
Happy to be here.
The first question comes in from Twitter, and this one is from Droppin' Hammer 46. And they would like to know, what's it like dating and then eventually marrying a competitor?
Yeah, that you mentioned your wife
Yeah.
when you were talking about in the early teens trying to figure this all out. How long have y'all been an item? And
Oh, gosh. How long? Now, this is live, right? So I'm going to get in trouble if I say the wrong year, but I think we are going right at almost 11 years now.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we met back, I guess it would have been 2008-9 Legend Car Racing, and she was actually a division below me. So she had actually crashed a car. I'll never forget this. You always remember those stories. Down in Louisiana racing, and she crashed a car, needed some help fixing one. Met her dad for the first time, met her for the first time, and the guy I drove for, we ended up helping them rebuild their car. Well, they needed a place to race out of that coming summer. Because if you're racing Legend cars, you come to Charlotte Motor Speedway, you run a summer shootout. It's the best of the best in the country at that level. Well, they were from Oklahoma. That's where she's from, and they needed a place to stop and to work out of on Tuesdays. So by the time we ended that week down in Louisiana, they decided they were going to work out of our shop here in a couple of weeks for the summer shootout, and that's what they did. And at the end of that summer, we were pretty well an item. And like I said, that was 2008, I believe, and been going strong ever since.
10 or 11 years. That's incredible.
Yep.
And she was quite the racer too.
She was. I tell you, it's kind of funny you bring that up because I went to Lucas Oil Raceway Park, IRP, as people may know it, while we were in Indy for the Brickyard a couple weeks ago. They had a big super late model race that Speed 51 put on, and we went over there and watched that event, and we saw Dale Jr. and Latart and a bunch of guys walking around down there, and she was standing next to me, and somebody asked her a question about, have you ever raced here? And I went ahead and stopped him. I said, actually, her claim to fame happened right here. She won, the first female to win a super late model race at IRP. And
wow.
As part of the Champion Racing Association, CRA series, big super late model series out there. And the claim to fame, though, comes in that she won. Some guy named Daniel Hemric ran third. A guy named Ryan Blaney ran fourth. Chase Elliott May ran sixth or seventh. So
wow.
She put it to all of us that day. So no, she could definitely get it done.
And when you talk about Legends Racing and getting going in the early years, you won that huge race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Tell me your memories of what led to that night. And it was like the most money ever paid for a race like that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It still don't seem real or right that it happened to me, to be honest with you.
And I'm just curious, did the check come? Did that check show up?
$250,000 to race a legend car. Isn't that unbelievable?
I wanted to say it. I wanted to say $250,000, but I didn't want to be wrong.
So my good buddy Bubba Wallace, him and I were playing golf a couple of days ago, and this same conversation came up. What got overshadowed about that whole deal was it paid $10,000 to make the show. That's a huge deal. You know, you're legend car racing. You race for $100 or $200 a night, and Bruton Smith doing things the way he does it, and SMI, all those folks there said, hey, we're going to put on this Legends $1 million purse. And yeah, it held true. We won the race. It was a couple weeks later, got a check for $250,000, and obviously had a lot of partners and people that were involved in it.
Yes.
We actually, the only time at that level I ever had a contract, because I had one guy to own my motor, another guy to own my car, and I was the guy that put the cars together. So we all split it 3 ways. So one of the coolest stories, it was later that, probably 2 or 3 weeks after that race, I get my check, so my part was $83,000, and I get a phone call from Bruton Smith, from his folks, maybe Don Hawk, and he said, hey, Bruton wants you to come meet with him. Why don't you come sit down? So I'm thinking I could go to the Speedway. He's like, no, he owns a dealership down the road, a little side office, you need to go talk to him. So I'm running through my head, what am I going to ask Bruton Smith? I'm going to be sitting right across the table from him. And I think I went in there and I asked him, without a doubt, I said, hey, how can I make this $83,000 last my whole life? I got to make this last my whole life. He said, boy, $83,000. He said, you just take that money and you just have a good time. Make sure you got a good story to tell out of it. But he actually went on and bought me a couple sets of modified tires following that day to run me in a modified on the quarter mile later that year. The NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour brought modifieds to that track. So that whole race, the Legends Million, snowballed a lot of things that kind of set this whole deal in motion for me. But yeah, having the ability to run and win on that stage was something that definitely, without doubt, catapulted my career. And
then just a couple years later, you wind up in the Truck Series, 2015, your first full season.
Yeah.
And 16 driving for Brad.
Yeah, that's right. So 2015, that kind of started back in 2014. Actually, I was with my wife. My career, so to say, kind of leveled out, plateaued. I was going to be at that late model race like I talked about, and I got a phone call middle of the summer 2014, and we were in Langley, Virginia. She was racing the K&N race. I think we were driving home from the race that night, and it was a gentleman. He said, I'm about to change your life. Well, this guy that called me, I'd met him one other time, and I'd been helping his kid with some super late model stuff. You know, they go to a new track, I'd go jump in the car, test it, get it close, and then his kid would jump in. And his kid decided he was done racing, and he told his dad, he says, hey, I've seen this kid put the work in, put the time in. If you want to help anybody and continue down this path of racing, you need to call this guy. Called me up, sure enough, changed my life, got me lined up with the folks at NTS. That kind of really got my foot in the door for the NASCAR side, and took a chance on me, and here we are.
Well, I want to tell you some numbers that I dug up, and I think that it's pretty incredible. In 2016, driving for Brad in the Truck Series, during a 10 race stretch, you finished third or better 7 times.
How's that happen? You don't win.
That was my question. we know that you didn't get a win in the Truck Series, but I mean, that's, how does it not? How did you get so close? And I know there's 100 stories about how it could have been, but to run that good and not get a victory, that's just incredible.
Honestly, Mikey, I feel like I wanted to win races, right? I wanted to turn a lot of those into wins, but in the grand scheme of things, I think looking at it and people seeing kind of, trying to make the most of the situation that year, as a company, I think we won 1 race between myself and my teammate was Tyler Reddick that year. Now, I think he won one race at Vegas, 2 or 3 races to go in the season. But we'd had a rough year to that point of getting our trucks better and going on that tear. I think a couple of those, Kyle Busch may have got thrown out too, but they didn't take the win away from him yet. That's I'm just kidding. No, it's maybe I need to protest those events, but no, it's I'm not sure how you have. I'm not sure if that's good fortune or bad fortune. How would you look at that?
I would say I wouldn't. I always look at it. I wouldn't change a thing.
That's exactly right. It led to right here, right?
It's where I'm at, and
100%.
And I'm happy to be there. But this is not going to make you feel any better. There's an 8-race stretch in 2017 when you went to the Final Four that you finished third or better in 6 of those races
To get the homestead.
Yeah.
Then we go down there and have a battery fill.
And I remember that vividly because
me and you both.
And it's weird that I remember it. Obviously, it was near and dear to your heart. But you had the best car.
Yeah, that was a weird time for us too. I lost my crew chief 4 or 5 races before that. My entire team, we had an issue with lead like at Dover. So I was with a whole new group of guys those last 4 or 5 races, and yeah, we were able to grind it out, get the homestead, and they built this new car for me to go down there. And I was like, when you get in a car, you're like, man, this thing is really, really good.
Yeah.
And they dropped the rag, and I was up around the top where you got to be. I could go to the bottom, and just had a lot of maneuverability in that car. And I thought we were positioning ourselves to be the quote unquote upset, and started losing volts, and that was it. That was the end of our championship hope. But I think where we started that year off and grinding it out and getting to where we gave ourselves that opportunity, that was pretty special because at that point
you gained a lot. I mean, you
as a company, as a driver myself, as a group, we built a lot into that program, and it was cool to kind of hit the ground running again in 2018 with that group, and got my other group back, and it was we hit the ground running solid right off the bat again.
You got married to Kenzie eventually.
Yep. Been married now 2.5 years. Yeah. So end of 2017, we were able to go and tie the knot. I guess it'd be beginning of 2017. Did I say that right? 18, 19, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went down to Jamaica, had about 35 of our closest family and friends, and we had a good time. We'll leave most of those stories back there, though.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What does she do now other than support you?
She's honestly in a time where it's it wasn't that long ago. She was racing full time, thinking that she was climbing the ladder to having success, and then around that time, like I said, our paths crossed, and our roles changed, right? She ended up being a supporter, and I ended up being the guy getting opportunities. And since then, she's just been the rock behind me. She's been the one there, through it all. I think, through all those, second and third place finishes you talk about in a row, there's a lot of frustration through those times. And having somebody like her who's legitimately experienced it, felt the highs, felt the lows of our sport, been through the ringer.
Understands,
and somebody you can legitimately vent to. And I always tell everybody our pillow talk's a little different than most, but it's having her be a part of this journey. Yeah, it's kind of what's made it so special as it is, and knowing, like I said, she just gets it and makes our entire journey here together just fun and pretty lax for the most part, just because she's lived it, she's been a part of it, and look forward to having her be a part of whatever's next for both of us.
Yeah, it's you're one of those guys that no matter who you ask, Daniel's a great guy. And that says a lot.
I appreciate that.
About the way you were raised, or something that the Lord put in your heart to be able to persevere and to not let it get to you.
Just can't, right? Just got to keep moving forward. That's all you can do.
I got a question, and it's from Carter. Is this Reddit?
The one from Carter is on Reddit, yeah.
Carter said, I was looking at this year and noticed every time you return to a track for the second time, you finish better. This weekend will be your second Cup race at the Roval.
Yep.
So what did you learn last year that will allow you to improve your finish this year? And let me put a side note on this question, CJ. I watched you run second out at Sonoma in the K&N race.
Yep.
So I know you got the road racing skills. More globally, getting to return to these racetracks for the second time, I know that's part of what's frustrating you, and you're darn it. I got to figure out how to get back again next year, because you do always show that improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Carter, I can tell you the first thing we got to do is remember the turn. All of us as a field going down into turn one. That was where
were you at on that restart?
I think I was 8th or 10th. I was either 4th or 5th row outside. So we messed up with some strategy calls. You know what I'm talking about here, but you remember all this stuff. And I was leading the race before that, an Xfinity race the day before, and I almost did the same thing on the front row. So I'm like, all right, these guys aren't going to turn on no tires. And they didn't. I thought, man, I'm going to come out of this deal second or third. Thought I had it slowed down and turned left enough. And I think Kyle hit the tire barrier and came back across my nose, and that took me out. So, but yeah, we ran solid, man. I think we paced 2 or 3 of the practices that weekend last year. We I think qualified. We were second in the first round. I think we ended up qualifying 8th or 9th. Wheel hopped in turn 1. And we ran just solid. So I'm looking forward to going back there. I've been on the simulator all day today.
Have you?
Yeah, I got simulator time all day tomorrow. So, you learn very quickly where you feel like as a company or as a driver or just as a group where you feel like you're going to have opportunity. Maybe more this weekend than others. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for the Roval going back there for the second time. And, yeah, we got a list of tracks that we're going back to for the second time. So I'm pumped to get all of them.
What is the new chicane like on the simulator? What can we expect there?
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there. It's tight. You go obviously you're in 4th gear getting to that backstretch chicane, and you slow down a ton. I mean, obviously last year it was whoever could man up, if you will, and kind of get through there without losing the left side of their car, the nose of their car was going to have the most speed, and it seems very, very methodical now. I think a lot of approach. Your approach is going to be everything.
Second gear?
I think it's going to be borderline first. I think depending on your ratios, right? But it's I think you can make a lot of time on entry or you can make a lot of time on exit. But I don't think you're going to be able to do both. So time will tell. I'm looking forward to actually going out there here in a little bit just to maybe take a picture or two of it so I can get a visual for myself.
Can you get in a car and like a street car and drive around there?
I'm not sure if I can disclose that information.
Okay, I'll keep that between us then.
That's right.
What do you got, CJ? You got another question we can ask from some of our friends at Reddit or on Twitter?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is from Steven on Twitter, and he would like to know which of the upcoming races are you most excited about to be able to make an impression for next year?
I'd say it's the Roval.
It's got to be. It's at home, right? I mean, the Roval, yeah, it's good to were last year, and but we've struggled a little bit as a company in road course races this year. But I think at least having that knowledge, and it's still fairly new. You got a new addition to the racetrack, right? I like when anything that evens the playing field up. There's a lot of disparity between the field at times. So I look forward to those opportunities, and we got a good one going back to the Roval. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, me too. And I love all the races that we have coming up. I mean, they're just so entertaining to me.
They are.
Watching how and maybe you could help me understand like the restarts.
It's wild. Isn't
How do you balance that? Knowing you got to get all you can get, but you can't
it's
run over somebody or cut a tire.
Definitely a double-edged sword there. That's one thing I'd like to see, by the way, not to get off topic of your question, but I wish we could use each other up a little more and not have the tire rubs and fender rubs.
Do you think those composite bodies help to?
Unbelievable.
They bounce off each other better, right?
Yeah, ask Reddick.
Yeah.
I mean, he hits about every week and still drives out and wins races. So, no, I think hopefully we can go that direction, or at least something to make it something durable. But, I mean, you've got to get it all. I mean, the restarts is where it's at. You may, there's been the racetracks this year where you've been able to focus on, not have as much, downforce or more downforce. And that pays dividends on the back end of the run, but there ain't nothing like that restart. If you can go get 5 or 6 right then and there, that's going to pay big dividends. That changes the whole tone of the day, right? That's net 5 or 6 that they can't take from you. You got to go. It usually levels out to be, even if you lose 2 of them back, you're net gain, and that's hard to get nowadays. So it's you got to get it all.
When you think about RCR and finishing up this 2019 season, what tracks do you feel like there will be opportunities there for you to get to victory lane?
I think our program's just been the best at our high grip. Some of our night races. Our cars have. It's no secret. They've had a lot of raw speed, but not a lot of balance in traffic. And as we go into some of these night races, I think Kansas is a place that we can really go and excel at. And actually, even looking all the way down the road to Homestead for our season finale, I think our car at Darlington was really, really good, and we just got in a very unfortunate situation with Newman there. But outside of that, man, there's a lot of places I think we've built a huge notebook on. But definitely our more high grip, Texas was a little bit of a variable. We saw the entire field kind of change packages throughout the weekend, and like all of a sudden the field thought, man, we can put more raw speed in these cars, and everybody took a jump of speed, and that's what's cool to see everybody evolve through this deal. And that's the one thing about the cup level in itself, right, is it changes so fast,
right?
And But I think we've changed a lot of our stuff in the right direction, and hopefully we can show that off as we go down the road.
How do you work with Austin on that? Does he have one setup and you have another, or how do teammates balance that? And do you? I mean, you have the same stuff. It just depends on what direction you go with it, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Everybody makes kind of their own decisions, but we have full knowledge of what the other team is and what we have. The other added element to that is his crew chief was my Xfinity crew chief in 17 and 18. So he kind of knows as a crew chief what I want. He's trying to sometimes tell my crew chief, Luke Lambert, what I've tended to like. And then you got Austin and I. Really, we do actually work really well together. We've always had a lot of the same feel out of the car, what we want, what do we need to go and make speed. I think there's certain situations that, and I think some of our short tracks we go to, he's been in it now at this level for so long. He knows, heck, I've never ran a 500-lap race at Bristol. He knows I've never seen the amount of rubber that gets put down in 500. So leaning on him a lot to that kind of information, I think, has helped me. And I think he actually excels at it. He's done it long enough. And but then we go to road racing, he leans on me pretty heavily because for whatever reason I've been able to excel at it. So it's been cool to see how our friendship as kids, growing up between 13, 15, 16 years old, being around each other at times, Bandolero, legend car racing, how we've been able to take that relationship and really put it to work at the top level of our sport. That's something him and I both share. It's pretty cool between both of us. And but at the end of the day, we're both competitors. We want to beat each other. Our race teams want to beat each other, but I feel like we work pretty well together.
Yeah, I think from what I see, you guys are peers, you're equals, you're racers. Yep. I think there's some thought that maybe Austin gets better stuff than Daniel, or there's favoritism. That's not anywhere near the truth.
No, not at all. Not at all. At the end of the day, Pop makes the decisions on what happens and who goes where and what happens with our personnel. But when the race cars are built, I've had his cars weeks, he's had my cars. It all gets shuffled around. So that's the last thing I want anybody thinking. I've been given as good of a shot as anybody, same as him, same as everybody else that's ever been there. So obviously blessed to have the opportunity to do it. A little torn that I can't continue to build on it, but look forward to the next opportunity.
Yeah, you were very clear about appreciating Mr. Childress and all he did for you. It's probably been a pretty fun ride being able to listen to stories that Richard tells about racing over the years.
Yeah, it's a lot I wish I could share with other people because it's pretty mind-boggling. Obviously, it's no secret RCR's celebrating their 50th year. I mean, 50 years doing anything. You're going to have a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and he's been able to share some of those stories throughout, old plane rides with some of the best in our sport to, times out on the town, whatever it was. He's just always just had a good time with it and been successful. He's never not been successful. So that's part of the little bit of that fire that still burns in me is wanting to have results for him. This guy has done so much for our sport, done so much for me and my family. You want to give him results. So we got 8 more shots at it to do just that, and as they continue on to their 51st year.
He's never asked you to hold his watch, has he?
He has not, but I've heard I may have heard a story in detail about that. So it's one of the better ones, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's
a good one.
That's good memories right there. So the Roval, Marcus and Bruton decided they would make a new track.
Yeah,
and
let's just make a new track.
And last year there was so much energy about it, and then you guys didn't disappoint the way you raced it.
Unbelievable.
It was wild to watch. I loved watching it. That leads me to a question from who asked this question, CJ?
It's from Bob and Flobo on Reddit.
Flobo, let's hear it.
Yeah,
Bob and Flobo.
Bob wanted to know if you could build an all-new track, where would you build it? What would the length be and the configuration?
Me?
Yeah, I like that.
I don't think there's no track that needs to be built. I think we need to put safe barriers if that's what's needed at Nashville Fairgrounds, and that's where we should be racing at. That would be my renovation to a racetrack.
Well, I would take the Cup cars to Iowa on a Friday night or a Saturday night. I think
agree.
That would be incredible. And then what I would also do is what's the name of that track? And you might have raced there in Canada,
Mosport or
not the road course, Cayuga. Remember?
Oh yes.
Didn't they rename it?
Yeah, they just ran a huge straight rail late model race up there. It's like $75,000 to win or something.
Yeah. Somebody asked me how did Bubba win it?
Bubba Pollard won. Yeah.
How about that?
Jukasa. Does that sound right?
Is that what it is?
Well, there is one named Jukasa. That's one he just won. But.
So people said, how do you NASCAR more popular, and I'm like, move it to Canada.
Yeah,
Those people up there love their racing.
I tell you, the first year I went and ran a truck there, I could not believe. I mean, I don't know how many miles the racetrack is, but I mean, I'm talking, you saw fans everywhere. That was like, do a ride along, ride around the back of the truck and driver intros. Like, that's a cool feeling to see people come out there to watch you put a show on. Yeah, let's go to Canada. I like it.
What are some of your is Nashville Fairgrounds one of your favorite short tracks?
It's my favorite short track in the country, without a doubt. I kind of have that love-hate for a couple of years. I'd go there and I'd run second, third, and finally actually won the All-American 400 in my own car. It was my first time driving for myself, and after that moment, I was able to go back and win a couple Super Late Model races there in a couple different touring series, and oh my gosh, I love that place.
How did you finally build your own car? What was that? How did that go?
Well, that's a whole nother story we may need time for. But I'll give you the gist of it. I get a phone call from a guy named Bill Byron, and it happens to be his kid races now, William Byron, and he says, "Hey, I want William to run some late model stuff." I'm like, "All right, I know some really good people. I got a guy named Jeff Foltz, All-Pro champion from the past. He was a huge mentor of mine." And I started naming these other people down towards the Pensacola, Alabama area in Florida. These guys, take William if you want to let him get some good seat time. He said, no. He said, somebody told me you got a chassis. Well, that's all I had. I had a chassis. And we worked and talked and put a deal together. Next thing you know, I'm building this car, and William's going to come drive it. So I built this car, and he came and ran 3 races for me. I think our first outing together was in a little racetrack in Opp, Alabama. We went and ran Nashville for the All-American, and then I took him to the Snowflake, which runs the night before the Snowball Derby. And we had good success, and he hadn't quite mastered the shifting part of racing yet, so we had little issues on restarts, but it was...
was it obvious to you then that he was special?
I will tell you this. We go down to Pensacola. It's one of the toughest racetracks you can go and try to get around, and I got in the car, and the way I had the program set was I would go run the car and get it close. I was building, I knew it was in it, and I would put what I felt like needed to be in the car and get it to feel right, and he would get in. Well, I got it close on practice day, and he jumped in, and I'm not kidding you, within like 5 laps, he's within, maybe half a tenth or a tenth of what I had ran, and I thought, man, that's no easy place to get around, and he was like that everywhere. He always picked it up quick, and so if I ever hear any of his haters, I try to set him straight real quick, because like I said, we talked about earlier, wanting the respect of your peers. He got the respect from me throughout those 3 races, and he's earned everything he's ever got. And
then after that, you decided you'd run the All-American in your own car because you felt pretty good as an owner?
Well, it was right in the middle of that 2015 truck season, and I rebuilt it from one of those restart issues I talked about, and actually sent my wife to Lucas Oil Raceway Park to let her run it. And we actually went there to test it. I sent a group and a truck and trailer there to go take car racing. I went and ran the truck race in New Hampshire. We had a red flag under the truck race. Like, hey, how's my wife doing practicing? So they're giving me updates on the timing and scoring. And
that's awesome.
She had a little bit of body damage that week, and they got back. She ran second or third, and the All-American was the next week. And Jeff Foltz, I didn't have a truck or trailer that I owned. He's like, hey, if you want to get that car ready, he said, I got another buddy who's going to buy tires for you. He says, and they're going to pay the bills. All you got to do is, burn the midnight oil and get it ready. You have it ready. I had to go test at Homestead. He says, we'll bring a truck and trailer, pick it up, and haul it there for you. So that's what happened. I went and tested the truck. They took my late model to Nashville. I showed up, ran it through Tech, and we won the race. It was pretty cool.
Now, sitting here talking about it now, it sounds crazy, but that's just your life.
That was normal
like
stuff.
Going to test there, and the truck going there, my buddy taking it here, and I'm a crew chief for William Byron.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what's, talking about being down and out. I got a lot left in me because that was that's what made me who I am, and I just love it, Mikey. It was, everybody says, would you ever do it the way you did it, or what made you keep doing it the way you did it? I'm like, well, that's the only way you know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's what you have in front of you. And they say, would you do it any differently? And I said, well, no, that's what made me who I am. So I take pride in how I've gotten to where I'm at, and the people that have helped me along the way, and that's why I know there's a lot left.
Well, when we talk about what's left, what's next, would you go back to Xfinity? Would you run a truck? Are you going to stay in Cup? Can you give us any idea on how things are going? Will we see Daniel's smiling face around again next year, happy to be racing something?
I sure hope so. We talked earlier about how pumped I was to have all the support and outreach from the peers and whatnot throughout the sport, and I think that's opened up a lot of opportunities and a lot of doors and a lot of conversation with a lot of folks in all three levels of NASCAR. So that's all you can ask, is be a part of the conversation for people to take interest in you and want to at least be open and willing to give you a shot and give you opportunities. So I'm fingers crossed, hopeful that something will come together here in the next couple of weeks. But I will say I also started from a blank sheet of paper, from 2 weeks ago. So it's got a long road ahead of me, but I know it'll all work out the way it's supposed to. But definitely look forward to hopefully announcing stuff down the road.
Wow, appreciate you coming on and
Happy to be here.
Hanging out.
Yes,
Really
sir.
means a lot to me.
Hey, it means a lot to me. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Well, I told you that was going to be a lot of fun. Such great stories from Daniel. Stories of determination of a guy that had to work his butt off to get the opportunity. So don't you worry about how much he wants to continue and how hard he's going to work to do so. I've just had the best times sitting and talking to these racers, hearing their stories and reflecting back when he talked about watching the movie and how it touched him and the motivation I had to have to come back from adversity and not being able to get the victories you knew that were right there, being able to fight through those things. And that's what Daniel's faced with. It meant the world to me that he appreciated the documentary so much. And and about the documentary, there's been so many people inquire about how you can see it. It obviously debuted in movie theaters across America last week, one night only. But now it's available on iTunes. You can search Blink of an Eye, Michael Waltrip documentary, and you can find out how you can buy it on iTunes, and you'll be able to watch it right in your living room. So 100% approval rating is something I'm really proud of. I've read on Twitter and seen throughout social media how much people enjoyed the doc, and that means the world to me. Going to shift gears now and get ready to head to the Roval. It's going to be crazy racing. You know what you saw a year ago with those guys totally missing the first corner. And something cool happened this week over at the Roval. Joseph Newgarden is going to make some laps in an Indy car. Does that mean perhaps IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader at the Roval? I can't think of anything I would rather see. Wow, that would be so much fun. The Indy cars are so cool. Congratulations to Team Penske and Joseph for winning that championship. And I'm looking forward to seeing what an Indy car looks like blasting around the Roval. You got that new chicane. We talked to Daniel about it. That could be a hot spot. We know how crazy turn 1 is. I can't wait for all the action. Thank you so much for listening to another edition of Waltrip Unfiltered. Be sure to tell your friends they can add us via their favorite podcast app and have them give us a try. All right, appreciate you. Thank you.